a lot of numbers are being thrown around. I don't feel comfortable standing by any one of these numbers. And if any of y'all do, that's fine. But, whether it's 4, 5, 9.5, 11, this collective's doing it right. This attorney is the one, but we haven't talked to each other. Of course, all of this in the wake of the NCAA as in its stated effort to crack down on enforcement, in particular with inducements with NIL, as the very few NCAA rules that are there in place for name, image, and likeness include that they do not want you using name, image, and likeness as a way to win a recruiting battle, though that's probably always going to happen, but can't prove it. So when an attorney is going on the record and saying that Jaden Rashada left millions, quote, millions on the table by choosing Miami and trying to assign a value to the deal, it's going to get a little bit messy. And I mean, we're talking about a recruiting battle between Miami and Florida. Of course it's going to get messy. Social media is going to be on fire. And so I guess I start with what we're not going to reverse from. Jaden Rashada is committed to Miami. But is Jaden Rashada the kind of star quarterback commit that is even worth all this attention, or is the name, image, and likeness aspect making this a little bit more juicy from a perspective of college football talk?
Both.
Okay.
He's a very good prospect, a legitimate, top 5 type quarterback prospect out there. And the name, image, and likeness, because it was known for so long, I think behind the scenes and by recruiting media, that name, image, and likeness would be a major factor in this recruitment. I think it also amped up the amount of hype and attention being paid to the recruitment, much in the way that, Arch Manning, having the last name Manning, did so. Like, we would not be all hands on deck if he was Arch Thompson with the same level of talent.
But he's Manning. So for Rashad, I mean, we already know that the NCAA has reportedly, visited Miami and started to look around. This is probably not the headline. If you're playing like in the compliance office for Mario Cristobal's football program, these kind of stories are not exactly what you want out, especially if it potentially is going to create any kind of penalties for the football program moving forward.
I might disagree, Chip. Think about this. If you're in the compliance office, you're probably more scared that eventually there's not going to be any rules against this. And then what do we really need you for? What are we complying with? This creates job security for you.
Do you think that anything what numbers do y'all believe? No, man, that's a bad conversation.
Okay, if you told me he got 5.5 or 6, I would say I believe that over a 3-year deal.
Okay,
for sure.
And would you?
I have a hard time buying 9.5.
Well, would you believe millions were left on the table to go to Miami over Florida?
I mean, again, this is the claim of the lawyer who claims that he did the deal, right?
But then also called the story fake or lies.
Yeah. I don't know if I really believe that he left millions on the table. Because if you pair this with his other comments about Florida's collective, again, according to him, being the most disorganized thing and he would never want to work with them again, that to me implies that maybe those millions that you left on the table, allegedly, were not actually certain, right? Maybe they were more speculative millions or could emerge millions. I think some schools are more willing to promise money they don't actually have, or they have not actually fundraised yet, than maybe some other ones are. So, like, how do you say, yeah, this school offered a bunch more money and we turned it down because they were disorganized? Is that because you don't believe they would have actually paid? There's all these kind of questions. I'll throw this out to you guys. Why talk about this publicly at all?
Well, I think if you're the attorney, you talk about the deal that you just brokered to get more clients, and you had great offers on the table. I'm not 100% sure why he threw the Gator Collective under the bus. That to me, like, why would you go out there?
Is it a rivalry with Heitner?
Maybe. It could be.
Because they're both quoted all the time as like NIL attorneys in these articles.
Yeah. It's wild, though. And this is that whole aspect where this is not making Billy Napier's job any easier. Without question, a place that's already hard to please your fan base, and you ran off the last coach because he wasn't recruiting on par with the other teams in your conference. And now, but I think this is, if it's true, I actually think it's hilarious that the collective would be the ones at fault. Like, hey, And those, I guarantee you, the people that are giving to the collective and running the collective are the same ones that wanted Dan Mullen fired because he wasn't doing a good enough job. And so, like, if you're Billy Napier, I'd be like, hey, I've recruited, like, it wasn't on me. Like, I was doing my job. You guys couldn't close the deal. But because there can't be that relationship, I think you're going to see a lot of these. Like, and it's not just Florida that's dysfunctional. Dysfunction is all over the landscape because it's absolutely crazy.
Is this in the best interest of your client to put this out there?
No. I don't know why he's throwing the Florida collective under the bus. Maybe there's some sort of rivalry, but I just know that if I was an agent, why in the hell would I ever publicly say that I'm not going to work with a team who could help maybe drive up the price for one of my clients? That's just bad business to me. I think that's stupid. I don't know what his reasoning for that is, but the reason he's doing this is because it raises his profile. And like you said, he's one of the guys who's constantly talking to the media about this stuff. So, seems to be interested in having his name out there and people knowing who he is. And then if you're Miami or you're any of the schools, like, maybe it's not ideal. Like Chip, you were saying, maybe especially with the NCAA sniffing around, you might be a little nervous. But at the same time, if you're a school and word is out that you're paying a kid $9 million, whether it's true or not, all that matters is there are recruits out there saying, did you hear how much Miami's paying?
But if I'm Jaden Rashada,
no, it's terrible for the player because
terrible for the player.
Because it's terrible for him. There's no proof. So there's no solid proof of how much money this kid's getting, and there's not going to be because they don't have to release this stuff yet.
Sure.
There's no rules. But if this kid comes to Miami and doesn't play well, now he's the $9.5 million bust, and he might not be getting anywhere near that kind of money. And because there's another thing, I don't know if we could get to this after the point, but I took down a list because Rashad is like a highly rated 4-star.
Mm-hmm.
And we're thinking of the money that's been going around or being tossed out is going to these highly rated QBs in the last, in just the first few years of NIL here. And it's why I'm convinced that this is not going to last, at least not at these prices. Because think of how much money whether it's $5 million or $9.5. Here's a list of top 100 quarterbacks from recruiting classes since 2018. I didn't use 2022 because there's clearly not enough, data to suggest whether these kids are going to work out or not. But going to 2018, you had Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. Duh. JT Daniels, okay. DTR, sure. But then you got Justin Rogers, Tanner McKee, Matt Corral, Jaron Williams, Phil Yurkovich, Emory Jones, Colson Yankoff, Jacob Sermon. A lot of those guys, nobody knows who they are. 2019, Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels.
All those guys were.
But I'm saying Spencer Rattler. Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Ryan Helinski, Graham Mertz, Sam Howell. 2020, Bryce Young, DJ Hughes, CJ Stroud, Hudson Card, Jaquindon Jackson, Luke Doty, Harrison Bailey. 2021, still probably too early, but just throwing them out there. Quinn Ewers, Caleb Williams, Sam Heward, Brock Vandegrift, J.J. McCarthy, Kyle McCord, Ty Thompson, Jake Garcia, Drake May, Jackson Dart, Tyler Buckner, Miller Moss, Jalen Milroe, Garrett Nussmeier. Imagine all those kids are getting like $5 million because they're top 100 QBs, and that seems to be the going rate. How long, considering how many of those guys are names that nobody really knows, are these guys going to be getting $5 million?
$5 million over 3. I think that'll continue in perpetuity and go up. That is absolutely the risk is priced in for these guys to bust. You're paying coaches $10 million, and they're no more certain to
dumb
work.
People with lots of money.